Hello. My energy distribution company has announced to want to install a smart meter in my house for gas and electricity. Now, despite their assurances in their folder that everything is going to be alright and I have nothing to worry about, I declined their proposition. I've dealt with the smart meter for a longer time, since 2009, and I will explain in this episode why I am not so keen on having this piece of equipment installed in my house. It was early 2009 and I was sitting on the tribunes of the first chamber as a fresh new member of Vrijbid, a civil rights organization here in the Netherlands. I was witnessing a debate surrounding the smart meters. A bill was already passed through the second chamber, which would be our Congress, you could say, and nobody there had read that in this bill there was a piece of text that said that anyone who would refuse the smart meter would be committing an economic crime with up to 6 months of confinement or imprisonment, whatever you want to call it. Now, this went way too far for a lot of the senators, and they told the minister to change that piece of text and to make it possible to refuse the smart meter. And so it happened. Unfortunately, nobody asked the minister, why did you put in this piece of text and why did you make it an obligation to accept such a meter? If it is such a great piece of equipment, then it would save so much money and make it easier to switch from energy producer. Nobody asked that, so we will never know. But what we do know is that the minister later, after her ministership, became the director of the International Energy Producers Club. Now, the smart meter is an instrument for metering of gas, electricity, or even drinking water. It works electronically and it can store values of the meter for a long period of time. It sends its measurements remotely, either through the air, through a GPS type of signal, or through a wire, like in Italy. Now, extra features could be that it communicates with other equipment in the house, or the internal valve can be shut off remotely, or it can be restricted. Now, a smart meter is part of a larger network called the smart grid, in which producers, distributors and users are all connected together. And that is nice if you want to fine-tune supply and demand. For instance, your washing machine would only start working when there is cheap wind energy available. Big drawback is that your network becomes much more sensitive to mistakes or to sabotage, to cybercrime. Politicians are easily satisfied by the assurance that the best available security is going to be used. But that's not good enough, as we know in this country from the public transport chip card, which could also be hacked, even though it was the best available security. And imagine when a large section of your country goes black, out of electricity, and it cannot be started up for many hours. What kind of problem you would have. Imagine also viruses, Stuxnet. How the Israeli, through Siemens automation, managed to put down a whole big sophisticated system in Iran. Now, a smart meter can establish what goes on behind the front door of your home. If resolution allows it, and it is less than a fraction of a second, it can be established not only what kind of equipment is in use, but also which brand. And thusly, It can be established if somebody is in a relationship. It can be seen if somebody ever left the children at home alone. And it can be established if somebody is late in defrosting the ice tray of his refrigerator, or if he's still using energy inefficient equipment like the old-fashioned light bulb. And we're all supposed to pull our weight in fighting climate change. So if you're not pulling your weight, perhaps you should be shut off from electricity. Now, I'm not convinced that it's going to go that fast yet. Because I had a meeting beginning of 2011 with the person responsible for the establishment of the smart grid in the Netherlands, and he assured me that he takes privacy very, very seriously. And he also had an important play on a European level. However, if this is going to stay this way, that remains to be seen. Because these devices, these smart meters, will require regular software updates. And at the same time, our legislators cannot be counted on always to have our best interest at mind. They can be sleepy at times. And at the same time, the industry is working on a much bigger network called the Internet of Things, in which everything is supposed to be connected to anything. The person I spoke to at Vrijbid told me that it frightened him to the core when he read what that was supposed to be. Now, the measurement values of your smart meter are either going to be sent through a wire or through some sort of antenna signal, a GPS signal. And in that case you would have to be dealing with radiation. And from the United States there are particularly worrying reports of people getting sick from their smart meter. You have to imagine it like this. On one side, on the outside wall, you would have the meter, and on the other side of the wall people would be living there, and some of these people would be getting sick. And this really gets out of hand for a flat block where you have a whole battery of smart meters on one side, and on the other side people are really getting sick as a dog from the radiation. Now, this all falls or stands with how much data you are transferring. And in the United States, from what I understand, they have really a market for that kind of data. The measurement values of what people are consuming are very, very interesting for a number of players in the industry. If this is going to be a large topic for the Netherlands, I am not so convinced. For other countries in Europe, I wouldn't be sure. I do hear some worrying reports from the United Kingdom. So we'll have to see what happens. In any case, I will keep notes underneath this clip. Now, if such a device is able to communicate with your energy company or with different devices in the house, then it can communicate with others still. People you're not expecting. People who break into your system. Criminals. And they may establish what your normal life routine is. So, while you're away to salsa lesson, they may be coming over to your house to run off with your valuables. Or even worse, they may run off with your identity. Identity theft is one of the worst things that could happen to you. If you don't know what it is, then please make sure you have some idea of it, because it's a true nightmare. Now, a few years back, there was a gathering of people who were involved with the whole smart meter operation, the implementation. And none of them really were keen on having such a meter installed in their own homes, because they knew the risks. There was this one example of a gas valve that closed and could not be opened remotely. So in other words, they needed maintenance people to visit such a home to open the gas valve. Now for a single home, okay, but imagine that happens in the winter time for a whole district or a whole town, or even worse. This would be a nightmare. So at the moment there are simply too many risks connected to the smart meter. You'd be better off waiting a while. This is it for now. Thanks for watching. I will put up some links here and there, and I hope you watch me next time. Thanks. If you want to do me a favor, then like this video below or sign up for all new episodes.